And we are live now. Hey, okay, cool. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Of Like Minds video podcast, episode 15. Here I have a special friend of mine, Miss Cara, proud Filipino-American friend who also works in the marketing industry. Cara, thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for reaching out to me.
Yay. So, Cara, we'll get to this later on, but talking about your upbringing and you growing up in the Bay Area and what that was like.
Yeah, so born and raised in the Bay Area. I had an older sister, older brother that I grew up with. And I went to a private Catholic school all my life,
Mm,
from kindergarten to 8th grade. So St. Joseph's in Pinole. And then I went to a high school, also private Catholic school called St. Mary's. It was in Berkeley. So Um, I mean, maybe different from a lot of people, but in Bay Area where I was born and raised and just went through private Catholic school almost all my life. And then when I was in high school, I guess I discovered a lot of different arts throughout my life. I did acting, like being in theater. I don't know if I told you that, Kevin, but I used
hmm.
to do like
I didn't know that.
musicals and in
What?
middle school. Before that, I actually was really into the guitar, and so I picked that up, was trying to be a musician for a while when I was younger, and really was into the whole YouTube phase and watching all these different artists. But that was my before life, before I got into dancing.
Mhm.
So it was like guitar, got into um, theater and musicals. And then I think it's funny because when I was in musicals and theater, I was never casted as, of course, like the lead, but I think that showed me that I was like, okay, maybe I'm like more into dance. So then um found myself in dance, and I grew up more in the East Bay side of the
Mm,
Bay Area. So
mhm.
um I found funkonometry. Are you familiar with
Mhm.
funkonometry in
Yeah.
SF? And I started dance over the summer, where I did like a summer intensive with some friends. And it was really cool, not just because like dance, but I think that was the first time that my mom was more willing for me to just explore the world a little bit, go on BART, go on train by myself with my friends, and
Oh,
just explore, like, the city life and meet other people outside of the Catholic private school
yeah.
world.
I was just gonna say because you said that you pretty much grew up in the Catholic school, and so with your mom being so open with you just using public transpo and being exposed to all these different things, like how does that even? I feel like it's very either or, and it kind of seems like you have a little bit of a balance. So what was that like?
Yeah. I remember, like, I was really nervous and scared to ask her if I could even like try all this dance, because it required me to go all the way to the city, which is like, it
Mm,
was like either a 45-minute drive or like an hour and a half, I don't even remember, like BART train ride that I would have to do with my friends.
mhm,
And so it was hard because I was like, I know my mom wants me to be safe and all those things, but this is what I want to do, and like this is what would be required to just like get out of the house or out of the side of the East Bay and go to another city. Um, and surprisingly, she let me. And I think it was because I had like friends that were also going with me, and,
mm,
making sure that we were all okay. And I was doing it with other friends. Um, but during that summer intensive, I think that's where, I was able to do that. And then also pursue, and I like tried out for the dance team, for the junior dance team during the following year.
mm,
Um, and so I was also doing that with a friend. So I think that's kind of what helped, I guess, my family understand, or just help my family feel like I was safe with, like, not just always being in the East Bay and like doing other activities that are outside of where I was used to, is because I
mm,
had other friends that were with me. Um, but long story short, was into dance. I think dance is what really opened up my world into meeting other people, and just
mm,
meeting people that were very inspiring or like kind of similar to me. And then honestly, as college came around, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I liked dancing. And so honestly, as I applied to different colleges, I was like, I wonder if there's good dance classes or like dance teams around there.
Huh.
And so I applied to like LA area and San Diego. And staying in San Francisco wasn't a priority of mine. I really wanted to like get out of where I was used to.
Mm.
And so got into San Diego State,
Mm.
and I knew Masato, Masato.
Mm-hmm.
He told me more about the dance community and about the school, and so it's kind of weird because I didn't really know what I wanted to do going into college, but
Mm-hmm.
what I have told people have led me was kind of like the dance world and feeling like, okay, this is something new, but I do feel a sense of like something that I do want to pursue in that world. And that was like trying out for 220 or trying out for other dance teams in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that's kind of what led me to San Diego State or like San Diego area.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, kind of going back to the beginning of you finding dance and you making these travels to the city, if you can maybe just give a little more insight to, whoever's tuning in today and just what that was like when you first found dance and you found it with people, with friends that also enjoyed it as well. Like, what was that like doing something you really enjoyed with people that you enjoyed spending your time with?
Yeah, it was definitely I guess the people that really is what made it really enjoyable. I don't know if I think growing up in the Bay Area, I was lucky to grow up in a very diverse community. Also with, although like I say diverse, I went to my elementary school was actually like majority Filipino, which is kind of interesting because I think a lot of stories I hear is like Filipinos, they were the only Filipinos or Asians in their like American schools or whatever. But I
Mm,
was like, honestly, growing up, I was like with the majority of Filipinos,
mm,
which is very different. And so I was very comfortable in my skin. And then, but I think when I started dance, it was more of like this culture of people that lived in the city, and the city life is very, very different. I think
how so?
being that I lived more in like the suburbs of the
Mm-hmm.
East Bay, and so I knew how to drive, and we had BART, and um, but when I would go into the city, it was almost like I was with friends, and we were kind of like running around the city, or just going from restaurant to like stores to like. It was very easy to go around, and it felt a sense of like freedom, or something that I felt I didn't have when I was in the East Bay. It just that freedom as a young child, but still like feeling safe in a way. I mean, I don't know if we were safe, but I'm still here today. And but also being okay with the dance community, I think we did have good teachers, we did have good mentors that were like teaching us not only, it's important with dance, but how do you transfer this confidence into the other parts of your world, whether that's like doing a presentation in school or like um, just being a leader. What was interesting was like I was a dance captain
Come
one
on
of my
now.
years, dance captain, and that was like, although it's like, yeah, you're a dance captain for a junior dance team, but it meant a lot for me because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, as a dance captain, what does this mean to me, and how could I leverage this, like this power that I have, not power, but just like how could I make this team a little bit better with,
Mm-hmm.
given that I do have this power or whatever it is.
Well,
And yeah.
what was that? What was that? First of all, how did you even get, like, was that something that was voted on by the rest of the team? Was that kind of given to you by your directors, or how was that role given to you? And what did that mean to you once you did get that role?
Dang, that's a good question because I'm like trying to think right now. I think it was like I think we applied, and
Okay.
then the maybe
How
the
did you
director
apply? What did you have to do?
chose. I think it was like an application,
Okay.
and we kind of answered questions of like, basics like, why do I want to do this, or maybe even like, I think there's questions like, what maybe what experience do you have being what, like 17, or like maybe what changes. It was so long ago, but I feel like it was an application part of it, and then it was more of the directors of the dance team that, and the directors weren't on the dance team. It was, they were part of the adult team
Hmm.
that chose that. I think it's been so long. But yeah, when I got that, I was, moved. I was like, wow, they really like trust me with something like this.
Hmm.
And, it meant a lot for me because I don't think I'd ever been in like a leadership position ever until that
Mm.
point. But I think it was really cool is like I really loved dance, and I was just so into it, spending all your time, whether it was on watching videos on YouTube or just because that's what I had. There wasn't a huge dance community in the Bay Area like I think that they have in San Diego.
Mm.
And so a lot of it was just like learning, studying, trying to think like why do I like this, and how could we translate this into our team. um, and and yeah, I think there's something else I was going to say, but now
No worries, no
I
worries.
forgot.
Well, while you're
um,
thinking about that, was there ever a time? I mean, it's got to be a huge thing. It's your first, leadership role. So was there ever a time of great like adversity and that you felt like you really grew from? You ever? I mean, I can't imagine being a dance captain, 17 years old, with a bunch of your peers. So there's a lot of immaturity, I would say, and just we're still growing. So did you ever face any sort of adversity while being in that role?
um man, it's been so long, but I know it was definitely a weird feeling for me where I was like, these are my friends, these are my peers, and I had to like lead them in a way where, you know I it felt a little awkward for me where I was telling them what to do, whether that was just like, today this is what we're going to do, X, Y, and Z. It was kind of weird. I guess that was the adversity, that was just like
Hmm.
being comfortable in a leadership position where part of me was like, I'm kind of equal to them, or like
Hmm.
what really makes me so much better than them. I mean, yeah, I guess I'm team captain still and I have that title, but what does that title really mean? And so learning how to be comfortable with being in that leadership position was something that I really learned from, because it I always had this voice that was like, what's it called, like imposter syndrome,
Hmm.
like what is that, you're a team captain, what's that really mean? But part of me was also like, I'm in this position because I want to better this dance team and I want all of us to grow, and I think that's what everybody's common goal is right now. And so that kind of gave me peace of mind.
Mm. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I think something similar that you and I kind of have is that you are the youngest of your siblings,
Yeah.
and I am the youngest of. I actually have an older sister I just recently met, and I'm actually the youngest on my mom's side of all the cousins. So I can really see the maturity from you, just knowing you and you kind of taking that into that leadership space. So if we can just talk a little bit about, I think maybe the benefits of being the youngest of your siblings and how that kind of translated in terms of your maturity, in terms of you seemingly taking on this role and maybe roles outside of dance captain so well at even such a young age.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't think I've ever seen or identified being the youngest of my family a benefit
Hmm.
to I guess my future, but I think it's definitely relevant. And if I think about it now, I have an older sister,
Mhm.
5 years older than me, older brother, 3 years older than me.
Mhm.
They didn't like pursue dance or anything. I would say that I was kind of like the different one in terms of what I wanted to do, because both of
Mm.
them followed piano. I did it, but then I was like, I don't like this. And I ended it after like a couple months. They both really were good in sports. I did sports, but then I was like, whatever. And then I started like guitar and acting, and then dancing, and dancing is what I really thrived in.
Mhm.
Um, but I guess I would say that they've definitely pursued things where it's given me, I guess, confidence, where they pursue something and I see like, okay, if they could do that, then I can do it as well. Or they're maybe like they've gone through trial and errors where it doesn't make me as scared to do certain things. And I mean, being, also the youngest, being able to talk to them about certain things, um, it's almost like not that they were being like the guinea pigs of things, but I think that I recognize there's definitely a benefit of being a youngest and them
Mhm.
going through like my elementary school, my high school first before, and then them telling me things that I could benefit from going through those same experiences. And then they went to college, and then I
Mm.
was going to go to college after. And so just learning from some of the things that they learned is definitely beneficial, I guess, in that sense, because I don't know, maybe if I can't think of anything specific right now, but if maybe they like, learn something that was whether a trial and error, then they would pass it on to me and let me know. And I didn't have to
Mm.
experience that whole like failure and then learn. I just learned that from them because they went through it.
It's so funny how you say that because I feel the exact same way when people always ask like what it's like, at least growing up as an only child, because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't meet my sister till literally a few months ago, which is
Oh,
awesome
wow.
by the way. But I think I always tell people like I really enjoyed that advantage of just learning mistakes before I was able to make them, and you would learn from your elders, some of my older
Mm-hmm.
cousins, and so on and so forth. So I think it's really cool how I like it, even like in your way too. It reads the same exact way, but we also reap the same benefits. You saying that you kind of deviated from what your siblings did in terms of focus. So did that ever was there ever conflict in terms of like was there ever like I always felt competitive to my older cousins. Like I wanted to
Hmm.
be where they were. So I don't know if that was something that you've ever experienced growing up because your lanes were maybe a little more different, or what was that kind of like?
So for me, I think when I was going into college, I was still, I think the only thing where I felt some kind of relation, because I think personally I'm very in individualistic or something, if
Mm-hmm.
that's the right term. But because I like deviated and tried doing all these like different artistic avenues that they didn't do, and so I was very like, okay, I'll figure things in my own lane. But what I thought, I realized something later on is like my sister, she pursued business and marketing in college. For me, when I was in college, I entered college not claiming a major. I entered like undeclared.
Mm.
And then later on, what was it, like my third year, I had to declare something and I was like, oh shit, I don't really know what I want. And I kind of had an idea. It was either I wanted to go into marketing or I wanted to go into human resources and recruiting. I ended
Mm.
up choosing human resources and recruiting, and then doing internships, doing all those classes, graduating in business admin and HR with emphasis in
Mm-hmm.
HR. Right when I graduated, I realized I didn't want to do that anymore. And I wanted to pursue marketing. And then in relation to what you were asking, I wonder if part of this, me choosing HR and recruiting, although I was interested in both, I wonder if like, because my sister, she pursued marketing in, I
Mm.
marketing business, or at least her job was like in marketing operations. And
Yeah.
I wonder if part of me was like, I kind of want to do something different. I want to be different from her. I don't think it was intentional, but I think something subconscious told me like, why not just do something a little bit different from, my older sister. And so
Mhm.
I think that kind of played into my choice of choosing HR and recruiting. But then I ended up in marketing right now. So
I know.
that's, so I think it's something I reflect on later on. And I'm like, I wonder if it was because I just wanted to be different from my older sister and try something. But in the end, I actually wanted marketing, or at least that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's crazy how that ended up working out for you, even though you had decided maybe something else initially.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing too. This is actually something I did want to ask, just being refreshed about your story. So when you're going into college and you being undecided, first question, just both of us being Filipino, what was that like in terms of for your support system or your family to be like, you're going to go to school, you're going to invest in this, and you're going undeclared? And then second thing, what did that mean when you first finally decided to go with, was it
Business, and
business?
emphasis in HR.
There you go. So what was
Yeah.
that like when you finally decided at that point in your life that you're like, okay, I have something I think I want to do? So just kind of touching up on both those things.
Yeah, so the first question, as far as like trying to decide what I wanted to do, I think what I felt very blessed is like I don't think my family really pushed me into anything. I know my dad was very
Mm.
like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And then I was just like, I don't know. Like, I think he was very, or both my parents are very like, just, do what you really are interested in and pursue that. And like, for me, I was just like, I wish it was that easy to understand, but I
Mhm.
think I'm glad that they didn't push me into the stereotypical, like a lot of my Filipino friends that their parents wanted to be doctors or
Mhm.
engineers, things like
Mhm.
that. Because my parents were both data programmers and data
Mm.
analysis. And so they were in the business world and things like that. So I think they kind of had that understanding.
Yeah.
So they didn't really have there. I don't think I personally growing up had any pressures from my parents, at least. I did have pressures on myself. I think one thing is I'm
Mm.
very hard on myself, and I was like, yo, I'm going into college and I still don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
It was great that I got there's like opportunities with San Diego State that was just like learn about, join organizations, understand these different job roles.
Mhm.
Um, but eventually when I had to declare at the end of my second year, it was hard. My roommates were both in the medical field, and I still remember talking to my friend Marissa, who's a nurse right now, and
Mm.
she has always known that she wanted to be a nurse, and she kind of had a clear pathway of like how to go about that with San Diego State.
Mm.
And I remember I was always talking to her like, dude, it's so easy for you. Like, I don't even like I do want to be in business, but I think there's just so many pathways we can go about this.
Mm.
And I mean, of course she didn't really know either. But I think that's definitely a real thing with somebody who's interested more in the business world. There's just so many avenues, whether that's like you want to help like understanding your strengths. I think one, I was like, I really like organization. Maybe I'm really good with like human resources and helping businesses organize, the business. But
Yeah.
then I was also like, I've seen myself in leadership positions, whether it was like as a dance captain or just in
Mhm.
other organizations. And I was like, maybe I want to like be in entrepreneurship and own a business. But I really like the creativity side, and like, marketing kind of has that creativity side. So there's just
Yeah.
all these different things that I was thinking like, shit, I have to put like I have to declare something that will like really impact me later on. And so it was, heavy, because I was like, I understand how much this will really impact what I'm going to learn the next couple of days, because that what classes I'm going to take,
Yeah.
and then it'll impact like my opportunities for like getting jobs later. So I chose HR. I joined organizations. The classes ended up being really boring, and I did I think I did two or maybe three, I don't remember, unpaid internships for recruiting, and they were okay, but I realized like, dang, I don't want to do this forever, which I think was, kind of a blessing, because it made me realize like, at least I got these opportunities and
Mhm.
understood like, okay, I don't want to do this later on. And so like at the end of literally about to graduate from college, I was like, I don't want to do HR, but I'm about to graduate with like a bachelor's degree in it was called management with an emphasis in HR. And
Mhm.
I really wanted to go into marketing. Sorry, I don't know if this is more going off path,
No, it's
but
totally fine. It's totally fine.
what
Keep going.
no, yeah, what happened was like I studied abroad fall of my last year in college, and I went to Spain. And
That's right.
yeah, and then I started like a blog and wanted to create a website and just start some of these like digital marketing avenues, because one, it was fun just documenting my experience, and then two,
Mhm.
I think I started getting more interested in digital marketing, and it was a way for me to just practice like some of these things that I was interested in. And then when I came back from fall and finished my last semester in spring of 2017, I was about to graduate. That's when I was like, shit, I don't want to do HR. I want to do marketing, but I'm about to graduate. What I do? So what I did was we have at San Diego State called the AMP, Aztec Mentorship Program.
Mhm.
I utilized that, and I reached out to people who were in the marketing fields, and I did some informational interviews, and they were like my mentors, some of them that agreed to be
Hmm.
mentors, where I just basically told them my situation, like this whole my 4 years I was just studying to go into HR.
Mhm.
I did internships, I did classes, but I think I want to pivot and I'm about to graduate, but I want to stay in San Diego and get a marketing job. How the hell do I do all of this? And it was really helpful because obviously these people have been in marketing. Is those were the people I was trying to reach out to.
Mhm.
I mean, they've been in it for a couple of years. They had resources they shared with me. And one of them actually showed me what's it called, like this thing called HubSpot Academy, where it was a free online class to learn more about marketing, and
Hmm.
then this like HubSpot software, yada yada. And because of that, actually is the reason why I have my job today, because the job I have today is uses that software. And
Whoa.
so I think like one, it's cool that like my mentor, that girl was able to suggest learning about that marketing, but also that software
Hmm.
with those free classes. But also it's just really beneficial, I think, talking to mentors or people who are actually in the space,
Yeah.
because one, they'll tell you like, you might feel like you're freaking out because you're about to graduate and you don't have a marketing degree, but that doesn't matter at this point. And so that was kind of fulfilling. I was like, okay, so I could do this. Like, it's fine. And then two, they're like literally in the positions that I'm interested in. And, you don't have to wait 4 years or go into this system that all of us think we have to go through, like college, take these classes, have this degree. They can show you free online classes like I did, and then gain that knowledge, like if you want to learn that over the weekend, which I was like, I was like, okay, I'm willing to do this. Like, how do I go about this a different route?
Yeah.
Um, and so I don't know if this was like a question later on, but if there's anything that like really helped me like pivot my way in my
Mm.
experience with college, it was like getting a mentor.
No, absolutely. And I mean, you're making this change, what you said, spring quarter of your last year, essentially, like right, like
Yeah, it was
or
my last
spring
semester.
semester, right? So you didn't switch majors. Just wanted to correct that. Like
No.
you obviously finished in business with the
Hmm.
emphasis in management, and you found this mentorship like right at the end of your senior year, and so
Hmm.
you have this momentum now that you've kind of learned from people that have been doing it, and like you said,
Hmm.
that guidance. So what was that like? First transitioning now into post grad, having that, because I feel like that's a resource that I may or may not a lot of other people have, but that's definitely something that's gonna equip you really well. So, what was that like doing the post grad life, like right out the gate?
Yeah. So luckily, when I was doing all of like the mentorship, I was, stressed over the weekends, like trying to figure out like at the end of that quarter, I knew one, my lease was going to be up with like my roommates, so
Mm,
there was a timeline that was like ticking, and just figuring out like, am I really going to stay in San Diego? Because if I was going to, which I wanted to stay in San Diego. If so, like I had to find a job that helped me like pay for everything that was going on. I wasn't employed at that time. I
yeah.
did like free internships. My parents were great in supporting my living costs
Mm,
for when I was studying in school. Took out loans for like my college classes and all that. But once I was done graduating, it was all on me. And like,
hmm.
that's something that I'm like totally understand. So there was definitely like a time where it was just like, all right, time's ticking. What do I do? There's a lot of pressure. And I luckily landed, it was like a marketing internship, but it was full time at a market research company.
Mm,
So it started like 2 weeks after I or two, maybe like a month after I graduated. Like it was really soon after I graduated, where
hmm.
I went home, celebrated with my family, and then I went straight back to San Diego to
Yeah.
start working. So there wasn't really like much time to after I graduated, but I kind of went straight into it. And I think that's something that I was personally, it's a blessing and a curse, but I kind of liked working, or I liked the marketing world because I really wanted to learn more about it. But of course I didn't have enough time to just like rest and like chill with my family and celebrate graduation and all that. So I really just went all in right after graduation, and it was a full-time internship. Luckily I was getting paid to help me support like
Mm,
living in San Diego. Um, and what else? Yeah, that's I guess that's my transition going into the work life after San Diego State.
yeah, no, that's insane, and I think too, I think you might be the second person that I've had conversation with that kind of, worked your butt off and you're able to find something immediately out the gate, which is great. I think a question that maybe people that are tuning in and listening to this, maybe why, if you can go in a little more to why you chose San Diego. I think from the area that you come from, excuse me, you could probably say that there may be more opportunity there, or even LA, like maybe more of a urban or bigger city. So what was kind of the main driving factor for staying in San Diego?
That's a good question. um, that's a good question. No, I sometimes ask this myself. It's crazy because the fact that I don't have a legitimate answer, but it impacts my whole life is kind of crazy. One, I think I really built up a friendship support system here in San Diego
Hmm.
where my roommates or my friends I've made in school, and especially in dance, like I don't think I'm as close with people that I grew up with back home compared
Hmm.
to the people I am with here. And I think I've become the best version of myself, or I've been discovering the better version of myself the most recent years, and so it's enjoyable that I've been able to share with the people that I've met here. And so I think some of that discovery of myself, I tie that to San Diego. And maybe it's almost like unintentionally where I'm like, I really like myself here. And not that I can't be myself in the Bay Area, but there's just parts of my everyday life that I really like being in San Diego, even like surface level things that I just really like the weather, or like that it's really easy to just go to a friend's house that's like 15 minutes away rather than in San Francisco. Like I feel like it was a trip just going to the Bay to San Francisco, like
Hmm.
downtown, and like taking a dance class was like a whole freaking journey.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think because the most recent years is where I've really discovered myself and enjoyed being with the people that I've surrounded myself with. That's
Mm.
opened me up to being the truest of myself, although I think there's still a lot of learning and discovery that I have yet to do. I tie that to San Diego. And so I think that's the reason I tell when people are like, oh, are you ever going to move? I'm like, I think I still have a couple of years that I want to do down here. And I think it's not necessarily the city, but it's kind of like me saying like, oh, there's a little bit more discovery that I want to do in San Diego,
I love
if
it. I
that
love
makes
it. I
sense.
love it. No, absolutely. And you've kind of talked about it in bits and pieces earlier when we started and kind of in the middle. But for those that are listening and tuning into Cars Narrative, San Diego community, in terms of dance, is also very, very big. And like you had mentioned, even in your early days, dance has played a tremendous role in terms of you having, enjoyment outside of, academia. And so coming to San Diego and you going here for undergrad, how did you continue your passion for dance, and what spaces, and how did that ultimately affect you in school and in your professional life?
Yeah, it's crazy because right now, dance isn't really big in my life, but growing up, it was a huge influence into I feel like who I am today. And I started it in high school, and then I was in dance teams, and being captain, and I think a lot of those influenced me. But when I came to San Diego State, I auditioned for 220
Mhm.
because Masato, I used to dance with him in the Bay Area, and he was like, "Yeah, join this company," and I was like, "Sure, why not? This team seems cool," and it was really it's Okay, this is another thing. One, it's like when I was in high school, I was watching a lot of dance videos of teams and dancers in LA and San Diego area, and it was so big, and I was like, wow, I wish the Bay Area was this cool. And I didn't really know 220 before. I actually like watched a lot of who's like IDK videos, and it's crazy to see now. I know people who were like in those videos, like probably you were
Yeah.
in those videos too, and
No,
I'm
no,
just
no.
like, oh, it's crazy. Like, so I joined that dance team essentially because I wanted to, one, make friends, because I joined a whole, like, I moved down here not knowing a lot, like many people. I knew like my roommate and Masato, and
Yeah.
then it felt like that was the easiest way for me to connect with people,
Mm,
because I felt dance and the hip hop community was it was kind of like a language where you can where you know about it, and then if somebody else knows about it, you can connect on a level that's like, okay, you get me, like, you know what that is, and you
yeah.
know the rehearsals, or even like the stretches that everybody does. And just like literally the littlest things,
Yeah.
you feel very like heard because they know it as
Mm,
well. And so I think dance served me in college as a way to find my grounding and my roots in San Diego, and feeling a sense of like okayness or like confidence in being in San Diego, because there's other like-minded people, like-minded, like like-minded
always.
people, that were in physically in this city. Um, and then I did it my first year in college, and
What year?
then
What year? What year? That's just to give
so
context.
I was in 220 2013 to 2014,
Hmm.
and then I did it again 2014 to 2015,
Hmm.
and then wait, did I? Yeah, I did. And then, oh my god, am I lying to myself? No, I did it 2 years, right? Yeah, I did it 2 years, and then I stopped. um and I think that was one a big thing for me, and I think, like, well, I don't know if it was a really big thing for other people, but it was hard for me to explain to people why I was stopping. And
Mm,
I mean, it's still something that I'm like still trying to figure out, but although I think I know the answer to, it's just I was getting to a point in college where I moved to a new city. I was meeting a lot of people. I was discovering what I wanted to do in life. And dance wasn't, I think dance really opened my eyes to different parts of the world, different people, performance, and different avenues that I wasn't used to. But I think it started to become things that I was used to, and not discovering new things for me, if that makes
mm.
sense. I think, okay, one, there was still a lot for me to learn for dance. That's not what I'm saying. I don't think, I think there's still, not that I'm saying like,
Just
oh,
to
I was,
clarify, yeah,
just to
yeah.
clarify, like, there was still, of course, so much for me to learn from dance. But I think with my focus and things that I was getting more interested in at the time, with like, if I really want to stay here in San Diego, I got to figure out a job, and like, I
Mm,
want to do a job that I'm passionate about. What am I actually interested in? I think it was deviating from dance.
mm,
And so part of me, I was like, yeah, I think I could continue dancing, but I could also explore other avenues, join different organizations and things like that. And
mhm.
I think another reason that I felt like I didn't want to continue with it was because I felt like I was putting like 50% into, like, half-assing a lot of things, rather than
Yeah.
like giving your all to one or two things. And so I felt like it kind of wasn't, it didn't make sense to be doing that. And it's kind of like, what you put into it is what you're going to get out. And so I felt like because I was kind of half-assing it, or wasn't as passionate about it, it's like in return I was kind of getting a whatever feeling, or like,
Mm,
um whatever you get from it. And so yeah, I paused with dance, and I explored different, I guess I spent more time in different things with college. But I I went back. Oh yeah, I went back to grown-ups. I went back to
Well,
dance.
before we get there,
Okay, okay,
I
okay.
just wanted to align up our years. Just correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I got this. So you said 2013, 2015, you were on 220.
Wait. Oh
Great
yeah.
team. Competitive. The rehearsals are going to be rigorous, and you're going to be fully demanded in terms of mentally and physically. And I think those are the years that you were undergrad, so you were still undeclared at this time, right? And so I'm
Yeah.
sure that your transition and pivoting in your professional career probably had something to do with you realizing your focus was shifting, in terms of, if that's safe to say, and probably why you took a break from dance. And you're obviously, 2 years down the line, you're graduating, and you're kind of figuring it out, and you kind of have things solidified. So how we met, through Grown Ups, which is another dance company, a little bit different though, exhibition team. If you just want to explain a little bit about the need to come back to that, maybe
Hmm.
why you came back, if you were in a better place mentally, or you felt more, you had a grip on what you were trying to do, or if you're going to share about what that transition was like coming back to dance.
Yeah. Now that you bring that up, it's like I think also part of why I stopped was because I was so stressed, or just like I didn't feel grounding in what I wanted to do with my life, which was tied to being able to stay here in San Diego. And so I mean, at the time, I just felt like, stopping dance at that time would help me figure that out. So fast forward, then my third and fourth year, I wasn't dancing, trying to figure myself out with work and studying abroad, discovering different things. I told you, like, I discovered that I wanted to go into marketing. Um, I luckily got a marketing internship with like a company right after, stayed in San Diego. And then was that when I think that was, when did I start Grown Ups? Was Grown Ups, when did Grown Ups
2017,
start?
27,
27.
ending
Oh,
2017.
2017. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yeah, that makes sense. So I found myself a marketing job, and I think it's like part of me felt that sense of security in my life, or
Mm.
a little bit of stability, I guess. Not that I knew what the fuck I was doing, but I found a sense of stability in being able to be financially dependent a little bit, and like being able to stay in San Diego. It was something that helped me come to the next step of like, all right, so I got this down, like, am I happy? And I felt like I was kind of like surface level, like coasting. I wouldn't say I was very passionate or driven with my job. I think it was just kind of like, okay, this is something I'm learning about. And I miss that whole feeling of being passionate and driven in something. And what I
Mm.
was in that was dance. And so I don't think I ever thought that coming, out of graduation, going to this next job, I was going to be in another dance team. I never expected that.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, like, Masa and Paulo just like
Mm-hmm.
texted me. We're like, look, like Carlo is starting this dance team and more. Like, should we like audition for this? Like, I think it's gonna be good. And then it was like in a week, and that week I was just like, should I even do this? Like, and I think like there wasn't much going on in my life, and I was really interested, and I think I really like the directors, and I was like, okay, I think this would be really cool and really interesting. And so I did it, and then I ended up being Grown Ups. So I'll be honest, like, it wasn't premeditated. It wasn't very
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna get this and I'm gonna do this. I think it was very like, at that time in my life, I was just ready to do something new. And I'm so grateful that I did it, because I met
Yeah.
all these amazing people, like learned so much, was able to perform again, and it was
Mm.
amazing. Um, and so I think, yeah, the reason why I got back into dance, I think because part of my life was a little bit like stable that I didn't have before.
That's absolutely huge, and we're definitely glad that you came back. It's funny how we're also similar in that sense, because my friend Kirby, who was on IDK and SGBM, among other teams, but he was the one that actually told me about Grown Ups. So I
Oh,
didn't even hear, like, I was
do
very,
me
you
neither.
know what I mean? So I was very just like, and I was still commute. I don't know if you remember, I was still commuting at the time. I was still living
You
in
were in
LA,
LA.
and I was teaching in
Yeah.
San Diego and LA. And so it's just funny how, like, we kind of just like trusted our friends to be like, all right, I'm gonna do
Mm-hmm.
this. funny thing, he ended up not doing it, so he ended up leaving me. So that's where I was just like,
Oh my
all
gosh.
right. And things just kind of worked out. But it's a shout
Yeah.
out to Kirby and Masa and Paolo for
Yeah.
bringing us all together. But that's super crazy. Another huge transition that we kind of mentioned a little earlier that I was interested in. So at least from my knowledge of knowing San Diego State, I know San Diego State is they go hard and it's a bit of a party school. Not to say that you guys don't do work, because I know you guys do work. I have family that's gone there before, but you also your experience before going to San Diego State is you're coming from a Catholic school and
Hmm.
you're coming from years of being in Catholic school. So I guess that contrast and kind of if you can just even shed some light on what that's like going from that school system to going
Yeah.
to university and it probably be being a little bit different. What was that like?
Yeah. So, I mean, in addition to that, I did what is it called? Confirmation classes. Is that what it's called?
Yes, it is.
And I was a youth leader too. Like I was very into my religion, if that's the right way to
Hmm.
say it.
Yeah.
And it was great. And yeah, but so I wouldn't say that my school, no, yeah, I would say that it was strict. There was definitely rules. It was very focused in Catholicism and
Hmm.
religion. But I think the fact that I was in dance, I think that kind of gave me that experience to understanding a different world out there already.
Mm.
So it's interesting because yeah, although I did go through like private Catholic school almost all my life, I think dance is what helped me like see like a different world and not feel like the transition from high school to college in San Diego State that is like, you're right, it is a party school. It wasn't that hard of a transition because I think my big like, whoa, this is all different, like what is this world, was kind of was actually in high school when I joined the dance team and saw San
Mm.
Francisco and met all these different people and stayed up late like doing rehearsals and then like getting food after and doing that world, which was actually kind of similar to I guess my college life after then.
Hmm.
When I did college, staying up late, getting food late, doing dance rehearsals late.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think if there was anything else that was different, but I mean, uh, diversity
Mm.
diversity was pretty big in the Bay Area too. I don't think that was huge.
I know you
I
said
guess
that there's a lot of
religious,
Filipinos that I don't know if that was like earlier in your schooling in private schooling or was that throughout even high school too or
actually not in high school. So
mm,
I feel like it's so interesting to hear a lot of stories who are like first gen Filipinos in America because a lot of the stories are like I was the only Filipino growing up in an all white school or something like that. But actually, I was like surrounded by a lot of Filipino, and I'm so glad that that happened because I didn't feel very othered growing up.
mm,
But in high school, it was very diverse, and I don't. There wasn't as many Filipinos in my school. It was a lot of like all kinds of people, like white people, black people, Mexicans, like
mhm.
and then I don't think Filipino was as prominent of ethnicity in that school. So I guess it was there was a transition from like elementary school and then in high school is where I was like, oh, the world's not run by Filipinos, or like I'm not surrounded by a bunch of Filipinos, which was an interesting realization that I don't think a lot of people experience. I
Mm.
don't know for Oh, sorry, I don't mean to like ask you the questions, but
No,
for
go
you,
ahead.
like when you were growing up, did you grow up in a predominantly um like Filipino centered like area?
No, that I mean it's funny that you asked that because I mean the area that I grew up in there were definitely a lot of Filipinos but the schools that I went to performing arts school 6th through 12th grade
Oh.
and so similar to how you said dance kind of already brought in your mind in terms of maybe a different lifestyle outside of like the private Catholic schooling. The same was for me, like I was exposed to the LGBTQ community really early
Mm.
on and
Mm.
even in like similar to you, even in the dance space, like I was very comfortable being flamboyant and just who I was and who I am. And so I think I'm similar to you is just you have to be thankful for those experiences, especially early on because it's normalized and it is really normal. It's just that some people it's a culture shock when they're exposed to it. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely thankful that even though yes, it was predominantly Filipino, like a Filipino-ish area, the school that I went to, there was people of every color and
Yeah.
every liking, and so and I wouldn't trade that for the world, and so
Yeah.
yeah, definitely helped me. Um, but that's crazy though. I mean, I just I think it's so like all these things like kind of blending together to create to create, for lack of a better word, like to create you. I think especially just like, I was like, man, I didn't even know you went to private Catholic school for all these years. I'm like, I would expect you, if you had told me that up front, I would expect someone completely different than the person that I know today. So that's like
Hmm.
pretty wild. Um, I wanted to also touch up upon too, you talked about when you first graduated and you kind of getting that support from your family back home when you first graduated, at least to kind of get on your feet. For me, I was very prideful, and I stayed away from, not away from home, but I didn't move back home for definitely a handful of years,
Hmm.
mostly because I wanted to prove that, being independent, that I can make it and make it in the career that I chose. And so wondering if, just thinking back to that time, you had just graduated college and you just found something that you really want to like put your energy into. I guess, did it ever have positive or negative? Like, did it ever have an effect on you in terms of, oh, I'm still receiving support from my family, even though like I just got a degree, like I have a job. Like, I mean, I guess what was that time like?
Hmm. No, that's interesting. For me, I'll be completely transparent, or I
Yeah.
guess I already shared it that for college, like my parents helped support me with my living expenses, but I did take on student loans completely for like um, class payments and things like that.
Mm.
And then after being done with college, I don't think my parents actually ever like said like you're on your own after, but there was a part of me that felt like that's what it's going to be. Regard whatever
Mm.
they feel like, I felt like that was only right. And I think I kind of had that sense similar to you where it was just like, I want to be financially independent and prove something, I don't know to who, but maybe to myself,
Mm.
that like with what I'm doing, I can pay for myself and do this. I think I don't know if it's like a more of a personal thing that where I feel kind of burdened that, my parents were taking on those expenses. And so it's like, I'm super grateful for it. But I think after college, I was like, all right, this is like my time to prove myself. Like
Yeah.
I need to find a job to be able to like pay for my own expenses and like live on my own, and I'll figure it out. Like, I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out. So that was very important for me. But I don't think for and it became a discussion later on that I brought up that I was like, okay, I'm going to start paying for this. I'll start paying for this. And I think it was less of like my parents being like, okay, we're cutting you off type of thing.
Hmm.
Which I think is, some families are very different, that they're
Yeah.
really more pressuring. I think, yeah, I'm very thankful that my parents were kind of in the respectful of like, okay, are you okay to pay for things? I think my mom is also
Yeah.
just like, are you able to pay for food? Or like, are you eating well? Like, Filipino mom, just making sure we're like,
Yeah.
we got nutrition and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that was my experience. It was just like I think I was just more hard on myself, that I was like, if I'm not paying for myself after college, like, man, I freaking suck. Like, I need to figure this out. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it seems like the support that you have from your family is, definitely really special and something that, maybe not a lot, or maybe a lot of people can relate to. But
Hmm.
if you can kind of go back, I know you kind of wanted, and you started just you talking about you being more of an individual person, like just really finding you and finding what you want to do and like focusing and honing in on that. But the idea and coming to terms with that idea of moving away from home, and then, that seriousness when you got into college, kind of going back to that time, um, you know main motivations, what were you really seeking at that time, if you can recall, just moving away from home, and what were some of the biggest driving factors for that?
Yeah. Mm, I think for I think a lot of when I was younger, just like transitioning from high school to graduation, I feel like I was actually not as um, driven to figure out what I wanted to do just yet. I think I was very in the motions of like, well, this is what life seems like. You go to high school, you find a college, you figure it out type of thing. And I was kind of going with the motions. But it wasn't until, I guess when it wasn't until like trying to declare a major was when I started thinking about things, to be honest. Um, and I think things that like drove me was like, one, to definitely like, do I like what I'm doing, or does it feel like me? Does it feel safe? Does it feel something that I want to keep doing? For one, I don't think I was very driven by money, because I think how I saw things was like, well, if I get really good at what I, or if I figure out what I want to do, then it'll translate into being really good, and then you get money later on. I think a lot of people are driven by like, oh, this job is going to get you a lot of money, and I think, that relates to other things, of course, in their life, of just feeling like safe with money.
Hmm.
But for me, it I think I mean it was I think it's even harder, because then it makes you like dig deeper almost, where you're just like, okay, if money's not the driving factor, like, is this really something that I like? Or like, how do I
Mm.
even know, like, if marketing or like is what I want to pursue, or HR, like what my question was like, if I pursue this, what the hell am I actually doing every day? And so that's why I did a lot of informational interviews, where you just like reach out to people who are actually in those jobs, and you like,
Hmm.
I just asked them, I was like, so what do you do every day? Like, you're in this industry, but like what are your challenges? What are the projects? Or like, what's your everyday look like? I thought
Mm.
that was very important for me to know. And so I think I part of me was like, I want a sense of stability, and I think that's why I went into like HR, because it was very organized. It was very um what's the word, like, just like sustainable, or a safe job kind of.
Hmm.
But it's interesting, when I started doing like internships and then learning more about it, that safe job just felt so boring for me. And I
Mm.
was like, I'm gonna go crazy if I continue this. And then after, that's, I think, what drove me was like the creativity side, or just the I really liked the creativity and technology side of marketing. That is what pulled me into learning more about it, and feeling like, I don't know a lot about this, but I think there's a drive in me that wants to learn more and get better at this role. And I think that's something that that want is a clue into like, I should pursue this.
Mm.
Yeah.
Damn. And you kind of just talked about that drive, and you're really looking for stability at that point, and you have that. And so if you can, shed light on what you're currently doing in terms of your career, and just anything that entails, and anything that you feel comfortable with sharing.
Yeah, so right now I'm a marketing associate at a marketing agency called Campaign Creators. It's a small, tiny agency. There's about 12 or 14 of us,
Mm-hmm.
some in San Diego, some around the country.
Mm.
And we do digital marketing. It's We're very focused on a certain type of marketing, like email marketing. We call it conversion focused marketing, not really like PR or like social media that I think a lot of people are familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like technology like side of it. And so that's what I do right now. I started this job about 2 years ago, where I was doing marketing for clients and helping other companies
Mm.
market themselves, create campaigns, create emails, optimize it, help them, get sales.
Mm-hmm.
I was in that job for me almost a year, maybe like 10 months. And I sucked at it. I was so stressed at this job. It was so hard. But the thing was, I loved the company and I loved the people that I worked with. But
Mm.
just being in client services, I freaking sucked. I don't know. Luckily, there was the director of marketing at the time. She there's a person that left, and she was looking for somebody to replace that. And I mean, I'm sure they recognize like maybe this wasn't the job for me, and they asked if I wanted to transition to a different department and help with the internal marketing, is what we call it. Like we
Hmm.
market our agency to find clients, and I was like, hell yeah, that's let's do this. I love this company, but I don't know if I like this role. And so I
Mm.
transitioned, and that's what I've been doing now. I've been in this marketing associate role for about a little over a year now. And part of it is helping like create campaigns to find new clients for our agency. And then there's another part of it which is really cool, is like we've taken interns, and we like teach them, you know, about digital marketing, by pulling them into some of our projects. And there's a lot of like content creation in this, where
Mm.
like I help, like whether it's like creating blogs or like creating videos, or like um, this content creation side that I was never a part of in the client services that I'm really interested in. And there's this leadership side that I've taken on recently, because I had a manager before, but then she left last year, and then I ended up having to kind of lead this team in a way. And, you know, Kiana works with me.
Hmm.
We have some interns, and so just there's this new um, role that I've had to take on, is like not only doing marketing, but just helping teach, mentor, and lead these people in the right direction and supporting them, which I think is like now has been the hardest job I've ever faced,
Yeah.
because there's part of me that's like, I understand the value of having a good mentor and a good manager.
Hmm.
And so I want to be that. But there's a part of me that's like, dang, I don't know how to give this to you in the best way sometimes, because I don't have all this time and all other elements. So it's a balance. It's a challenge. It's very satisfying, I would say, when you know you see that they're growing. But it's being a freaking manager, a leader. Like I respect all the people who are managers out there, because it's not easy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you feel with your current role? I mean, you've talked about you've kind of enjoying, what you're doing now a lot, but how do you feel kind of forecasting the future in terms of, can you see yourself doing this particular role, or do you want to venture off and try something new, or even maybe pivot and do something else in your career? Like, what are you kind of seeing in the next, the near future at least?
Yeah, I think for me, I've never really like been good at forecasting like beyond a year, which is the thing. I've always been very like, okay, what am I interested right now, and let me plan for like maybe a month. Because for me, I'm just so, I don't know if it's something like I don't like getting tied down, but I think I recognize that I change interests a lot, and I'm open to discovering what that interest is.
Mm.
So for one, like I could see myself in this role. There's actually a part of me like I love this leadership position, but there's a part of me that has been feeling like I don't want this leadership position anymore, and I want to have my own manager type of thing to teach me how else I can grow. Because I think there's, when I had a manager myself, I felt like I grew so much and learned so much, and being a manager myself, I'm just like, damn, I kind of miss that. And I wish
Mm.
there was somebody to tell me what's like, tell me if I'm wrong or tell me if I'm right, because that's where I really grew a lot. So one, if there's anything, I would love to like step down from a leadership position in a way and have somebody
Mm.
else mentor me. I still see myself in digital marketing. Digital marketing is very like, there's just so many avenues that you could
Mm.
focus on. If there's anything that I would be interested in deviating to, it's it's called UX UI, which is user experience and user interface. It's almost like a mix of like knowing how to code, but then also knowing how to have an eye for design. So you develop,
Mm.
it's like you develop websites or you optimize websites that's best for the user experience, and you do like testing, you have like experience with like design and how it looks, but then you also know how to do like user testing and have like this development side.
Hmm.
Very complex job that I barely have experience in. But I think if I was really just like fed up with my role, it would be cool to, I guess, deviate into that.
That's super awesome. I mean, it sounds like you're well on your way, and I think even too, I did want to ask the role that you're talking about. It's very unusual to hear someone talking about dropping a leadership role, but
Yeah.
would you say that you're more so learning things on your own through your own trial and error because you don't have that specific mentor or guidance
Hmm.
in your current role, or what's that like?
Yeah, I think right now the most I'm learning is through trial and error of my own doings. I think I have really cool coworkers that work in different departments that I've been trying to, book meetings or whatever to just talk to them and kind of, I'm doing my projects and it's almost like I bounce off my ideas and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Or like, would you
Mm,
like, what would you do if you were in my position? And so in a way, I kind of like pull them in to be my mentor,
yeah,
even
yeah.
though they're not technically, but of course they have their own projects and things like that. So that's kind of how I've been trying to learn. A lot of it is just like I have to take my own time to do the readings, to just see what other people are doing. I try to take some like video trainings on my own.
Mm.
But I think that's only so it's effective in a certain way. I think still like having a manager, a mentor every day to just like be telling you what's right, telling you what's wrong was just like what helped me grow.
That's awesome. And I did want to ask just because I think it's a big thing that a lot of people in our generation are kind of dealing with in terms of pivoting and maybe making career changes when you thought otherwise, like you didn't think you would be in that position initially, but you've kind of lived that, making that pivot midway through undergrad. You kind of made a pivot when you absolutely loved your coworkers at your previous company and you loved the job, but you talked about the whole clientele experience was very, very stressful and pushing something new. What would you share? What would you um, say to those maybe in a time, especially now, given the current climate of just there's a lot of rethinking and trying to figure out almost repurposing like, what do I do? What do I bring to the table? What would you say to those people that may be going through that from your
Mm,
own experience and your own learning?
yeah, I guess there's two things that bring to mind. One, like it's okay. Like I bring up or I hear a lot that like, way back when a lot of our parents were used to having one job or like staying in one industry throughout their whole life. But I think how things are working out now, it's like people will be in different jobs and just jump roles way more often. And it's not, I don't know if it's accepted, but it's more common. So you don't have to
Mm.
feel like whether like feel a certain way, feel embarrassed or feel like weird that you want to deviate to a different thing. I think like one, it's okay. That happens a lot. Um, and then two is like something that's a little bit more actionable because yeah, it's okay, but then it's like, okay, so how do I figure it out? I think one, the best way like that I have really learned was just like learning from others. And so having a mentor is like was huge for me. But of course not everybody has, I guess, that opportunity or can find the right mentor.
Mm,
But doing things like this where you're like talking to somebody that's in a like whether that's in a role that you're interested in or just learning about different jobs like opens up, I guess, your ideas of just like like what you could do or a better understanding of what's out there, because I think we're so limited to understanding what different roles are out there, if that makes sense. It's like,
mm,
okay, this person's in sales, what does that really mean? Or this person's in marketing, what does that really mean? I think if you're really learning how to pivot or just trying to figure out what you want to do, talking to people that are in the roles that you're kind of interested in will help you understand and make you feel like, okay, these are the options that I have.
mhm.
Because I think when I was in that space of just like, shit, I have no idea what I want to do. Like I have nothing to hold on to of like an idea that I want to do. I I was just like, what are my next steps? But I think the next steps is just talk to people that are in the industry of things that you might be interested in. It doesn't hurt. I think a lot of people are interested in sharing what they do.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, a lot of people are open to like explaining what exactly their job is and just sharing some insight and like that they don't think is very valuable, but is really valuable to people who are trying to understand what they want to do with their life.
absolutely. I think it's funny that that is your answer because I still think of things in the like school years. So I think of the year as like not in January through December, but like September to June, if that makes sense. And then you just kind of
Okay.
block out. And so if you
Yeah.
remember, it was actually in the beginning of the school year. It was in September, August, September last year
Hmm.
that I asked you if we can like go grab a drink, and I wanted to
Oh
pick
yeah,
your
yeah.
brain about what you're doing, and it's really awesome to hear even how you've progressed even in the last 9 to 10 months in this, and then for you to like for us to have this space and to basically kind of share us not the same but like a more structured but similar conversation that we had before. So it's really awesome to hear your narrative. Now, Cara, I want to tie it all together, and
Hmm.
the viewer, the audience who's listening and chat and hearing your story, growing up in the Bay Area, East Bay, and being in pretty much for the most part being in Catholic school for the entire time, but still having that balance of dance and the support of your family, and going to San Diego State and making the move to San Diego and doing all of that, and then booking all the jobs immediately after school, which is a blessing.
I wouldn't even book all the jobs. Just
Well, I
gonna
mean,
make
yeah,
that
but
clear.
hey, that's all you did. You just got to get one.
Just one.
But everything you learned from the experiences, the networks, the adversities that you've experienced in the spaces, the classrooms, the people you've met, what would you say to maybe a 13 or 14-year-old version of yourself from everything that you've learned in your own journey so far? And for maybe it's someone, maybe it's even a 13 or 14-year-old who may be listening out there and in a time of, you're about to enter high school and you're still social distancing and learning, or just even just speaking to your 13 or 14-year-old self. What would you say from everything that you've learned?
Hmm. Damn, that's a good question. Um, I maybe like I think when I was young, or if there's something I wanted to tell myself, it's like, don't worry or don't feel like you need to choose a job that's stable or that you think is stable. Really make your focus more on like your interests and reevaluating yourself a little bit more.
Mm,
Is that the right way? Maybe like being open to more experience. I think like as I put myself in more experiences, whether that was like dance or like new meeting new people or like attending these like group sessions or organizations, it helped me learn and see the different opportunities, and get a little bit more clarity. I think with when I was younger, I was very maybe hard on myself and just like expecting myself to understand things right then and there,
mm.
and getting stressed that I didn't understand things right then and there. And so I think maybe telling myself that one, stop stressing, two, like go out there and put yourself in new experiences because that will give you a little bit more answers. Is that good? Yeah,
It's amazing.
I would
That's
tell
your
myself
answer,
that.
so it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thank you for that. I think, you know, the this is what this is for, and not only for us to, kind of catch up and to just hear your story, but also for, maybe those that may be looking for inspiration or just some sort of spark that we may have needed that final push. So I just want to say, Cara, thank you for sharing your story. It's extremely valuable and important for us and also whoever's tuning in. So I just want to say thank you for your time today. It means a
Of
lot.
course.
And then hopefully, further down the line or when some huge changes or even small changes come along that we'll have to do a follow up and we'll catch up again on here
Yeah,
at that
yeah,
time.
no. Yeah, I wouldn't mind coming back on if things change or like if you have more questions. Like I know there's
Absolutely.
so much more that we like dive deeper in when we first talked way back when in
Yeah.
September. So happy to jump on another call if you need to.
Yay, cool. Thank you so much, Kara. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Of Like Minds video podcast, episode 15 with Kara Susvilla. Kara, we'll talk to you soon and we'll catch you later, okay?
Yeah, no problem. Thanks
Bye.
guys. Bye.